Hey everybody, and today we're going to look at my Time Fantasy machine. Now this one's been out on loan for a long time. It's been to a couple of shows and it's been loaned to an arcade as well. So we need to fire it up and see what works and see what doesn't. So we've got a problem with the battery backup there. It's going into diagnostics. So we'll just give it a flick of the power and that should boot it. Right, so playfield is looking reasonable, in that most of the lamps seem to be working, if not all. Press start. The sound is not working. It's not making any noise yet. Let's just see. Oh, it is working. So we've got a pop bumper out there. Okay. So we've got intermittent sound. That top right pop bumper's not working. I'm going to play around with it a bit now and see what works and see what doesn't. Right, so I've had a play with the machine, switch slice, so we can see what doesn't work. So we've got a switch here that's not doing anything. We can't trigger this mushroom loop because this side works, but this side doesn't. This target here, you can get it to work, but you've got to really hammer on it, so that needs sorting out. And that third one there does not work, hence why we can't actually complete that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Also the lane change doesn't work, so you can't move those across, so we need to check out the lane change switch, check out those switches, probably give them all a good clean up. Some of these are not so sensitive, so they want to clean. Yeah, that 1 and 3 there, they're a bit hard to press. I think most of the lamps are working, so that's nice. There's very few coils on here and they are all working, well, sorry, with the exception of the pop bumpers, so this one's fine. This one's not sensitive. It does work, but you've got to really press hard on that, so that needs the switch sorting out, and this one doesn't seem to work at all. Oh, it does work. You know, it's really insensitive. So at least all the coils are working, but it just seems a lot of switch issues we need to deal with. Soundboard, as you can hear, is working now. It seems it takes a few minutes before it'll work properly, so probably needs a rebuild, and we'll take a look at that as well. Right, so I'm just going to have a peek around in the back box and see what we can see. So it appears I've done some work on this in the past at some point, as there's an NVRAM fitted. Looks like that PIA there has been replaced. So there's been a PIA replaced on the driver board. Power supply has been rebuilt at some point, got new capacitors on it, and the soundboard looks pretty much untouched. So I'm surprised that the diagnostics came up, as it has got an NVRAM fitted, but what that probably means is that the voltage is rising too slowly. So instead of going straight to 5 volts to switch on, it started off a bit too low. So got capacitor there at the edge connector. I was going to say it would have been this capacitor here, but that's already been replaced. However, it still could be bad, so I may try replacing that as well. Probably try repinning the power connector and replacing the contacts. That will potentially help it. I mean, it did save the settings once it powered up. It's just it shouldn't go into diagnostics. Just like I say, it just indicates a slow power up. So soundboard, there's not much on a soundboard. What we can do potentially is make it more reliable by removing this RAM and fitting a 6802 instead of 6800. Replace some capacitors, they all look original. Well, that one doesn't look particularly original. No, actually it is. Those are original. Clean up fuse holders, make sure we're getting good current going through. The bridge rectifier is actually a beefier one than normal, so that's probably fine. So yeah, I think capacitors and CPU upgrade are at least a good starting point on that one. And I've just seen something very important down here. So the backbox mounted bridge rectifiers, which both look original and are destined to fail at some point, they don't have fuses. Now, these are known for setting the wiring looms on fire when they short out. When a bridge rectifier shorts, when it fails, it normally shorts out one of the diodes, and you can potentially basically overcurrent the wires coming from the transformer and cause it all to burn. So what we need to do, as you've probably seen me do on some other videos, is we need to chop the wires on the AC side and put some fuses in line. That at least means it won't melt down if something bad happens. Thankfully they haven't failed yet, despite looking original. Okay, so we've got a few jobs we need to do, so let's crack on. Right, so we're on the bench and we're going to do some work on this soundboard. So the sockets are a little crusty looking, so I'm going to get those removed and replaced. I'm going to take the RAM off, and we definitely want to replace these capacitors, they look very old. Pins are in pretty good shape actually. I was thinking of replacing the power pins, but there's no burning or marking on them at all, so that's quite surprising. We'll clean up the fuse holders, and then we'll test the efficiency of the power supply. We'll run it through the load tester and just make sure it's working well. Okay, so we've desoldered the RAM, we've put new sockets on for the CPU and for the ROM. Additionally, I noticed that the ROM that was on the board was sound ROM free. Now, in the ROM set I downloaded for this, it says it needs sound ROM 12. So we'll try that and see if that makes any difference as well. Right, so I just want to see how, I haven't done the capacitors yet, I want to see if this makes an improvement now. We'll stick it in the game. Right, so that made no difference, which is very annoying. It's exactly the same amount of broken as it was before. So, come on. So, you get intermittent sound until it's warmed up. So something else on the board is still faulty. So I've got this back on the bench, and the first thing I'm going to do is test out the power. So I've basically hooked up a power supply to the incoming, which would be from the transformer, and we'll test half the bridge at a time, and then we'll run it through the load tester. I'm just going to do that now, and we'll see how that goes. Right, so power supply is on one half of the bridge, and we'll hit the load test. So we've got a little bit of voltage drop. It seems to be delivering the current steadily. What I'll do is now reverse. So we're testing the other side of the bridge. Just checking that's right. Yeah, it goes through the other fuse. So power on. Yeah, that's all good. Pretty much the same on both sides. So no problem with the power regulation on this. Right, as the fault only lasts for a few seconds after power on, it's pretty much impossible to track it down. So I'm just going to go through replacing things until it starts working. It's a very simple board, so there's only a handful of components I need to replace. So first of all, start off with the PIA. I'm going to fit a new one of those, as that's probably the most common failure on these. And then we've got only 6 logic chips and a DAC. So nothing major on here. Might replace some capacitors as well, and we'll give that a try. Right, so as you can see, the PIA has been done, and I've replaced all main capacitors as well. Now you'll note that I've replaced them with radial rather than axial, as I don't tend to keep axial on stock, and most of my favourite brands don't even manufacture axial anymore. So what we do basically is fold the leads out, put heat shrink tubing over the leads, and then solder them in this position. Now the only thing we need to do now is put either some hot glue or some RTV silicone to just stop them from wobbling around. They're probably fine like that, to be honest, but especially the heavier ones, I just want to RTV them down and make sure they don't get damaged by vibration over time. It is a pinball machine after all. So there we go, and we've got the PIA in, so let's go and give it a test and see if it makes any difference. I'm feeling unlucky today, so it's probably not. I'm probably going to end up replacing more, but we'll see. So while I'm working in this back box, I need to address there's a lot of screws missing. That rail's not attached. The top of the PCB is not attached. The bottom of this one's not attached. So I'll get all those in. So obviously you want a nice good ground connection between everything. That helps resolve a lot of problems, to be honest. So there's actually no sound at the minute. So that leads me to believe I've put a dead PIA in. Oh, the bell works. Yeah, I think the PIA is bad. I'll try another one. Right, I changed the PIA and we're back to partially working sound again, where it doesn't quite work at startup, then it starts working. So that must have been an eBay PIA. Don't buy your chips off eBay, they never work. Now before I go any further with the soundboard, it potentially is the CPU board signals that are bad. So as I've got a row of Williams games here, I'm going to steal the soundboard out of one. This blackout one's going to be easiest to get to. I'm just going to stick it in and see what difference that makes. Right, so here is the 2 soundboards on the bench. This is the blackout one. We can see we've done the 6802 mod at some point. Still got its original capacitors though, but it was working last time I had the game set up, so it should be okay. Now, to make this work, we need to switch the ROMs, and there's a jumper. So so this one's got speech, so that jumper there is missing. This one doesn't have speech, so that jumper is present. So we just need to basically add that jumper there, and that'll make the sound work. If you put it in without that jumper, because basically what it does, it routes the sound through the speech board, then you'll get no sound out of it. So we'll just add that on now. Right, and that's that. So the ROM is swapped, the wire jumper's been added. Let's go and try it in the game. Right, that blackout board is in. Let's fire up, and we'll see if it makes any difference. It does make a difference. Alright, so the sound works straight away, and you get the intro sound which you don't get on the other board. So there's definitely a bad chip on the other board. We'll just replace the 6 remaining ICs. That'll only cost, I don't know, £2 or £3 in parts probably, so it's worth doing. Okay, so I've pulled out all the rest of the chips, and I've fitted one socket. I need to do all the rest. I need to polish up the pads first, and I've marked on what each chip was. I've been pulling them out and testing them, and I think I found our winner. So we've got a 4050. Can't really see that very well. Doesn't like that. So there you go. That's what it was. So it was actually the 4th chip down out of the 6 that I took out. But I thought it saved time to basically take them all out in one go, put all new sockets on and put new chips in. At least I'm keeping this machine for a while, so might as well make it reliable. And I'm just going to verify that this does in fact support testing 4050s. Sorry, that light's showing on the screen. Just checking it's in the list of supported devices. Come on, there we go. Right, yes it is. So that's definitely bad. That was the chip that was faulty. Rightio, I've been out to the storeroom to get the parts I need. Now it just reminds me I need to order some more. I've only got one 4050 left, only got one 4069. The rest I've got plenty of. So I'm just going to test them as we put them in, just to make sure they're good before we go and test it in the game. So the 4050 was good, which is great because I've only got one of those. I just tried a 4068. And we've got a dead one in stock. Let's hope the other two are not also bad. Let's give them a try. Yeah, all 3 of those are bad. At least according to the leaper. So we must have a bad batch. I'll have to get some more of those. What I'll do first though is I'm going to fire up the Boardmaster in a bit, and we'll test them in that just to get a second opinion. It looks like I'll have to use the 68 that I took out and put that back in actually. Right, while I'm installing chips, I'll just show you this ancient lead former. So basically you just run the chips through the bearings, and it basically straightens the legs out so that you can put them straight into machine sockets without the legs being all bent out. If you get a fresh IC, they're sort of splayed out and they won't fit in. I've actually got another hand tool for inserting them, but I actually prefer using this. I got this off of a friend who was emigrating to New Zealand. It's ancient. I think he got it off someone else, so it's been passed down through a few people. Proper old school engineering. So all the chips are installed now. I had a bit of a problem with the 68s and the 69s didn't work, so I've put the originals back in, straightened the legs out, and put them in the sockets. So I pulled out my Boardmaster so we can check out what's going on. So this is the 69. As you can see, it's got bad input and output. So some of these chips, especially the ones with the low quantities, they're just random ICs that I probably found in the bottom of a box of random chips, so they were in unknown condition. That's why they probably failed. The ones I've got higher quantity of, they tend to come in tubes that I've bought from brand new from, say, Farnell or wherever. So I need to order some new tubes of 68, 69s and 50s. The 50 did work. As you can see, that's actually an ancient random RS branded one, funny enough. I'll get a new tube of each of those because I'll definitely use them. I'll fix lots of these soundboards. And yeah, so that's the 69. I'm just going to grab the 68s and we'll test them in there as well. The 68s, so we'll clear that. Oh, that's good. Okay, so the leaper essentially doesn't like these. Let's try the next one. On the pass. good job I got a second opinion on these ones. So the 69 was bad, but the 68 is just fine. Interesting. Okay, I'll stick a new 68 into the board then. All the chips are installed. The last job is to get some isopropyl and just clean off the writing I put on while I was reassembling. I'm going to test it in the game. I need to glue down these capacitors, and as I'm not feeling particularly lucky and luck hasn't been on my side for today, I think it's probably not going to work, but let's go and find out. So I'll swap the hopefully repaired soundboard back in and let's see what it does if we fire up. Oh, not working. What's wrong? Oh, we're still having problems with the storing the memory. Need to look at the power supply still on that. Sounds like the sound's working. Let's just turn the volume up. It's all good. Thank God for that. So that bad seam last chip that's been replaced has cured the sound.